Mitikai or isn't? When we allow anger to take root within us, we're not being compassionate to ourselves. And I guarantee you that if that anger gets rooted, it will become rage. If we use that anger, that rage to strike out at others, we're not being compassionate to them. And when we teach others to let anger, rage, and fear take root within them, because without the fear, there's no need for anger. There's no cause for anger. We're afraid of what could happen. We're afraid of what did happen. We're afraid of potential consequences. Instead of staying grounded in the moment, of course, we all should be concerned about things in our lives. But to let that fear take over, well, hey, we're not being compassionate to the world. And there are three incidents, of many, but three that I want to mention happened recently where all three of those principles were violated. Now, I'm sure that I have viewers who would rather I don't speak about things political, but you have to understand, I don't like political. I eschew politics. But there are so many politicians of all parties that I feel it is incumbent upon them to not only teach us how to lead good lives, but to bash it into our heads and make sure that we lead their definition of good lives. This is not their purview. This is not why they were elected. This is not their right. But they do this. And when they do, I have to come in and talk about practical applications, because there are people that say, hey, Mark, good advice, and they'll follow it until some politician, some group, somebody somewhere says something that gets them angry, and then my advice goes out the window. There's only one other talking head social media personality, and believe me, I don't consider myself a personality, but only one other person I know that does this on a consistent basis, and that's Jordan Peterson. Now, you may not like his politics, but again, he's not into politics. But when politicians cross the line and advocate and push for and create all these unhealthy policies that hurt people, then he has a moral obligation to come in and say something. And Jordan and I have the same background. He's a psychologist. We have the same background. We have the same orientation. So here are the three incidents, three shootings. You had the one in Nashville. You had 3 kids killed, 3 adults. You had in Alabama, there was a teen's birthday party where 34 were injured and 4 killed. And then in Kansas City, Missouri, you had an old coot shoot a boy who came to the wrong house, rang the bell, and this coot just decided to shoot him. He was terrified. There are groups out there, groups among us, who dare to draw demarcation lines among these different incidents as if one is worse than the other. And the only way these have degrees of magnitude of worseness, of badness, of horror, is how many people are injured. Alabama, 34 injured, 4 dead. Yeah, that takes the cake as far as the worst. But as far as the fear and rage driving people to disregard not just the feelings of other people, but the other people entirely, their lives, and then disregard the feelings of the families and the communities, the friends that are affected by these blatant gunshots, taking of lives and attempts to take lives. The throughput is that we teach rage. It's all the thing right now in America, isn't it? Teach rage. This has no sound psychological principle. This has no sound humane principle. And it certainly doesn't have any sort of godly principle. We teach rage, we teach fear. And it, basically, humanity is useless. If you're a white male, if you're a cisgender white male, well, then you're responsible for everything. You're scum. And you can't get away from that. You're scum. And if you're anyone else, and there are degrees of again, badness, if you're anyone else, then you're hapless. You have very little agency, because you can't accomplish anything without the horrible white males creating the situation where you could do that. This is nonsense. This is ungodly. This is inhumane. This is horrible. Because you have agency. You have power. You have resiliency. And it is my moral obligation and the moral obligation of everybody in this world to help everybody else and to realize just how powerful you are. Just like we allow them to let us know how powerful we are. And I'm not just talking about power of pushing somebody down. I'm talking about the power of human kindness, of spiritual connection. And when we deny that, when we say that humanity is useless, guess what? There are enough mentally ill people out there that they will pick up guns and cause havoc. And that is the throughput for all three of these. Do you realize that there was a group that actually came out after the Nashville shooting and said, gee, well, sorry this happened, but if you don't give us what we want you to give us, it's probably going to happen again. Probably going to have more people killed, more children killed. What? You want us to believe this? The trans group that said this, you want us to believe this about transsexuals, that they are so mentally imbalanced that they could kill any one of us at any second. I know transsexuals. I don't subscribe to this theory. That is nonsense. You're telling this, you want us to believe this about your own group, your own people. You actually think that badly about them? And you want me to think that badly about them? What a horrible, horrible, horrible thought. And protesters about the old coot, the old white man shooting the black kid. The black boy is doing well. He's in the hospital. He's doing well. Praise the Lord. But they're protesting this, and they're not protesting the Alabama shootings. They're protesting this, and they're not. BLM is protesting this, Black Lives Matter, and not protesting the Alabama shootings. Listen, Black Lives Matter, absolutely, positively, all times, every second, every day, every situation, everybody, everywhere, every when. And you're making a distinction, Black Lives Matter, only when there's harm toward black from white? No, Black Lives Matter at all times. Broaden your scope, because this is a universal concern. We must teach love and kindness and strength and resiliency. For many people, that resiliency and self-worth is there, but is buried from all the static and all the people, comparative few, actually, but they have manipulated so many others into creating all this noise, all this static that says you're not worth that much. That's wrong. That must be stamped out. That must be, may I use the word eradicated? That must be eradicated. Love and helping your fellow out. Helping your fellow to get up and to realize the innate strength within and make that connection to the divine. This is what we need to do, folks. It's that simple. That's the practical application of my very solid gold advice. And I'm sure I'm going to have to say it again and again, because witness what has been happening without people following that very simple advice. So I'll leave you for now. Peace, 4 fingers, twice to peace, a more perfect peace. As some of my friends say, shalom, shalom, salam, salam, assalamu alaikum. Peace. And be good to yourselves.